Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be going over the evolution of the meta with Purrely cards, despite the fact that they're not even out in the TCG yet, because quite a lot has gone on in the meta, and there's a very real difference from something I showed you a couple days ago to what can be expected now. Before I continue, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below if you like these type of videos, if you have any other feedback, and if there's anything you want to see in the future. Also, please go check out tsx1.com and use the code POTATO10 for 10% off on your sleeves. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so here I am looking at the deck list I showed you guys a little while ago on the channel for a Purrely template deck list. Now, I hadn't tested this deck a crazy amount, but this was built off theory, the idea of the tech cards being Droll and Lockbird being good against Supreme Samurai, and then decent in other matchups where it's not insane in matchups like this in the mirror match, but it can be good, and it's not dead either. But you have cards like Herald of the Abyss with Thrust for the mirror, and then Dimensional Barrier as well for Thrust if you get hand trapped. This seemed ideal because now it meant you didn't have to play in abundance and going second cards like Kaijus or multiple Herald of the Abysses to really deal with the going second aspect of the mirror match. However, it seems that there are new technologies to defeat Herald of the Abyss. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Often feels like war, and the meta evolves in a similar way where when one deck creates a strategy to beat you, the deck that is being targeted is going to evolve to try and beat it back. And Herald of the Abyss is something that's been kind of exploding in popularity in TCG and OCG for the last little bit because of Purrely. And there are ways to beat it, so that's exactly what we're going to start seeing happening more and more. Now, at the moment, it's not super widespread, but I do think it is very important to know so that you can use it yourself, and then also you can rationalize whether Herald of the Abyss is worth it or more. So how do we beat it? Well, besides the obvious ways you can negate it, we want to be looking at specifically the aspects of the card to try and see if we can pinpoint any weaknesses. So, pay 1500 life points and declare a monster type and an attribute, and your opponent must send a face-up monster with a declared type and attribute from their field to the grave, if possible. The rest of the turn, your opponent can activate monster effects with that same monster's name, and activate one Herald of the Abyss per turn. So, when we're doing this, we want to just look at every type of ways could be stopped. So, normal spell cards, anything that stops normal spells, like anti-spell, would be great. But obviously, cards are good anyways. If we draw that, we're probably feeling pretty comfortable. It requires to pay life points. You can put them below 1500. It's good, but it's not really realistic on a turn one. The main thing that's important here is that they declare a monster type and then attributes, and then you, the player, sends one of that monster. So if you can put up something next to Noir that has that same typing and attributing, you are no longer weak to this card unless they kill your other card first. However, the Noir protects that card from being something attacked over. And if they had a Kaiju or anything, they could have just Kaiju'd over anyways. So that means we have to put up a Dark Fairy next to the Noir. That is not that hard to do. We can take a look at plenty of Dark Fairies. One easy one is Purrely Lily. You could just have a Lily on field. This also means that you can simply chain any of your quick play spells to Herald of the Abyss, especially from deck. And then you may discard a card, but at the cost of protecting Noir, I think it's something you'd be happy to do. That means it is a lot more valuable to now save one of your quick play spells on your first turn, so you don't go ham on playing to keep up the Lily. One that's especially important to consider to save is the one that says it cannot be destroyed by card effects, Happy Memory, because this card lets you play around Ghost Ogre as well. So if this is a card you have in hand, you could likely hold this card to try and play around Ogre, and then if you haven't used it, you set it, and now you can use it to play on Herald of the Abyss on your opponent's turn, giving you a lot of insulation from disruption with the Purrely deck. And you're not going to be fixated on just making as big as a field as possible. You can get a Noir up with like 5-6 materials. That's be ideal. Have this face down, draw a couple cards, and that should be fine. There are other Dark Fairies though as well. So let's take a look at what our options are, because you want other options as well. Sometimes this isn't an option that you can go for. We want to see this other stuff we can do. The Monster Fairy Dark, and now we want to look for something from an extract that is searchable. That would be ideal. So links first. We look here what's available. So we obviously cannot summon Cherry Beanie. We cannot summon Weather Painter. However, Condemned Dark Lord requires 2 fairies, which is something we are able to go for. So its effects, not rather important. It gains 500 in the end phase, which, you know, isn't nothing, but it's not super relevant either. And then it lets you tribute monsters without tributes, which is going to do nothing in this deck. The main point is here now, if you have to go through all your Purrelys to get like a proper ball rolling and get all your guys out on the first turn, then Condemned Dark Lord is something you can summon next to the Noir instead of something like IP, and your opponent won't be able to Herald the Abyss you now. Now there are several ways to counter Herald the Abyss. So what does that mean as the tech player? That means as people grow ever more apparent of the ways to beat Herald the Abyss, and they start preparing for it, it's likely that we should stop including it in our deck, and we should rather find new tech cards to beat it. Now, whenever we're looking at beating an engine, you can either prevent it from happening, or you can break it after it's already established itself. And Herald the Abyss obviously breaks it after it's established, but if we're thinking of something new to do, we could always go back and reassess whether we want to go for one or the other. Something that I think hasn't been talked about enough that I'm rather surprised about is Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. So that takes the approach of suffocating that takes the approach of preventing the Purrely player from ever making the Noir, rather than breaking a field that's already established. But I think that's fine because it should be pretty impactful. Take a look at the Purrely cards. The quick play spells here aren't like striker cards. They're rather ineffective at being defensive tools. So if you hit them off of their main defensive monster, these aren't going to suffice as their defense. Now, they can make other random link plays that aren't great, like making Ensemble and IP, which are both fine, but not massive killers like Noir. And they do have other disruption in the forms of these guys. So Happiness can bounce back row. Beauty can change battle position. It can also act as a monster negate once per turn if it has the right monster, right spells material. And then Plump lets you banish a card like Farfetch'd at the end of the turn. So there are some disruptions there. It's not entirely mute, but there are higher costs attached to these, and they're way more vulnerable at the same time. So I think Ghost Reaper is one to consider. Now, obviously, with Ghost Reaper, you want to have space in your extra deck to fit Noir, and then you'd like to have stuff for other matchups as well, because you know you're not just going to play against Purrely. There's going to be Kashira, there's going to be Super Samurai, there's going to be Runic decks, and you want to have stuff for each of these options. It may just be relegated to a side deck spot, but I think it is something to keep an eye on that I'd seen awfully little of, considering I think it's rather impactful on this deck. Now, if there's a reason why you don't think it's very good, please let me know, because I can't see a way that Purrely really has a way to recycle the banished Noir, and I don't think they have great recourse to defend themselves after the fact. Now, other options for breaking the field could be Kaijus, it could be, I mean, that's pretty much it, right? It could be Kaijus, or Xyz Encore is another one. In OCG, we've seen a lot of cards like Kaijus seeing play, like Santa Claus as an example. Now, the issue with that is that will trigger the My Friend Purrely, so they get back 3 cards. However, if they're going to be drawing 4 to 6 cards in the standby phase anyways, it's debatable if the floating for 3 makes a difference. You may be pressed to the point where you have to kill them that turn, or you're going to lose either way, and the 3 cards isn't going to make a difference because they don't interact anyways on your turn. And if that's the case, then maybe we just have to go for Kaiju, then kill them that turn. In the LCG, though, there's specifically one difference, and that is in Purrely specifically, they are playing Santa Claus, not Kaijus. I would like to clear up why Santa Claus is being played over Kaijus, because it is something that is not super straightforward, but once you know why it's happening, you will have a lot of an easier time. Let's put ourselves into this imaginary game state here. We are playing against Purrely in the mirror match, and they have the Noir up, and that's it, pretty much. They have a Purrely card set, and they're probably trying to play in Herald the Abyss, where they can trade it to summon the leaf from the deck and have that sent off instead. So, we have a Santa Claus, though. We're safe from that. What can we do? We can summon the Santa Claus, and it's going to be forced to summon in defense mode, and they get back 3 cards of the My Friend Purrely. Now, they drew 6 in their standby phase, and they had 1 already in their hand, and they just had 3 more. So now they have 10. They're going to 11 next turn. How do we win this game? How do we kill them with Purrely? So your ways to deal damage are pretty much limited to happiness because you can attack multiple times if you have the right materials. However, it only attacks monsters. How do we close this gap now? Well, what we can do is we can get to Beauty first, and then use one of the quick play spells and chain it to attach, and then change the battle position one monster point controls. Now this will turn the Santa Claus to attack mode. It is rather weak. It's fine. And then we can use Delicious Memory targeting that Santa Claus. So now the Santa Claus can't be destroyed by battle. And from there we can get into Happiness as normal. And now we can activate our happinesses, or our happy memories, to give it extra attacks, as well as a bunch of the Delicious Memory, and then it gets really big. So with all this stuff, you get this huge multi-attacking happiness. Obviously be careful with the Pretty Memory with the life points gain, but most of the time you get this giant 3,000 plus attack happiness attacking 4 times over the Santa Claus that should close out a lethal. You can kill even though they only have the one monster. Now it's a setup that requires a heavy engine in hand to do so, but if you haven't able to prevent their field, or all you have is the Santa Clauses, then it's very easy and possible to do. Okay, so those are the main tech changes I wanted to talk about as Purrely is evolving. So to recap, Hell to the Abyss is being teched against now, and it's no longer as foolproof as you may have thought in the past. And it seems that Santa Claus and Kaijis are picking up instead, despite being not as value-based. They still give you the opening to go for lethal that turn, and we can do so in Purrely, despite the deck not looking like it can. And then also another consideration card is Ghost Reaper. Alright, so that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the future.